Welcome to Off the Record with Kyle Sells Biz. This is our weekly podcast where we bring to you experts in different business fields. Today we are focusing on trust and estates and estate plans. We're excited for our special guest. You're listening to this podcast either because you are a business owner that's planning for your legacy, planning for retirement, and want to get some ins and outs and best practices of what you can do to properly prepare your business for an exit. Or maybe you're looking to make some acquisitions to build up a nice portfolio for your family. Or you may be an advisor that advises companies in those respective areas as well. So we have this podcast once a week. We are streaming live right now on Facebook, as well as LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter. And any comments, enter it in the comment box, and we'll be sure to address those comments and questions throughout the program. I'm very excited to have our special guest today. Sabine and I met, I want to say maybe it's been 2 years now, I think, right?
Yeah, just about.
Yeah, I think it's about 2 years. Yeah, so we are both alumni of the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Biz. And if you don't know about the program, I'll highly recommend you check it out and take advantage of it. It's essentially an MBA program for entrepreneurs. For us, I think it was 3 months. It took for us to go through.
Yeah, it was a very long 3 months. Very intense, but it was great. I learned a tremendous amount and met some wonderful people like you, Kyle.
Yeah. Same as well. I mean, everyone there was fantastic. We had some great leadership, great support, and this was done through Babson College. So the format, everything shared was great. And when you get a chance to meet other entrepreneurs that are going through the same challenges you have, it's always great. And now that I think about it, Sabine, the very first class that we had, do you remember what the topic was?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I do not. It might have been something around, I want to say, mindset or something like that.
Okay. I know I'm putting you in the hot seat.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
I did, right out the gate, right, Sabine? I got you in the hot seat.
Yeah.
So the very first class, the very first session, it was an exit planning.
Oh, okay.
You remember?
Right.
So they say, what's your exit strategy? So we had
yes.
how do we plan on exiting our business, and basically talk about legacy and so on. So some of the stuff that we're going to talk about today. So very excited to have you. And
Thank you.
it was 35 of us in the cohort, and we tend to keep in touch and track our progress and so on. And I always recommend business owners, have a mastermind that you can connect with and collaborate on, and just keep in touch. It's a tough road, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So Sabine Franco, I have to give her due respect, because she's definitely a trailblazer doing some amazing things. She's currently the managing partner of the Ambitious Legacy firm that's based out in Uniondale. You have a brand new office, right? You just moved into.
Yes. And we're loving it. We're at RXR in Uniondale, so it's a nice location, nice building.
Nice. Congratulations. Awesome.
Thank
Looking
you.
forward to visiting at some point. We actually have an event coming up there at my group, so maybe we stop by and check you guys out. So she has an amazing team, and she ensures that she helps her clients create businesses, protect properties, and plan legacies so they can be safe as they pursue their life purpose. I love that.
Thank you.
With over a decade of experience, Sabine advises clients in asset protection, estate planning, so they're preparing and designing their best possible outcomes for their future endeavors. She provides her clients with trust and estate tools to achieve success with security. Sabine has worked in various fields, such as business matrimonial law, real estate, and estate planning. And the Ambitious Legacy firm she applies each field she has working into kickstart the next generation to help families plan for their futures through legacy and estate planning. And I usually keep my intro short, but I have to mention this because being a super lawyer rising star for 2022 is something that is no small feat,
Thank
especially in
you.
your career. Sabine has also been featured on The Breakfast Club, which is New York's #1 radio show. She has her Earn Your Leisure podcast, and which is among the top 5 podcasts. And Sabine is definitely an influencer on social media. I do follow your stuff on Instagram, and you're just kicking butt. So she's also published her first book, which is I can get a copy of this book, Sabine.
Yes,
I'm
I'll send you one.
I'm a big
Signed
reader,
copy.
so I got to get a copy of your book. It's called. Maybe we should talk a little bit about that today. It's called "You're
You're
Richer
richer than
Than You Think: A
yes.
Step-by-Step Guide to Building a Lasting Financial Legacy for Your Family." So I'm excited to have you here, Sabine.
Thank you,
Um,
Kyle. I'm excited to be here.
yeah, we're
Appreciate
gonna have
you.
some awesome discussion. I do like when we have our guests to get a little understanding of why you got into what you're doing, what you do. What's your legacy, right? What's the legacy you're building, right? So
Yeah.
maybe if you can start off by sharing your personal journey into the world of trust and estate planning.
Yeah, for sure. So thank you for that glowing introduction. And again, thank you for having me here today. Really, you said a bit about where I came from or my journey, which is starting my firm 11 years ago. As a young attorney, I was also a new mom or expecting mom at the time. And I was really trying to figure out who I was and the mark I wanted to make in the world, the legacy that I wanted to leave, although I didn't think of it that way at the time. But in working in different areas, helping people with family situations and family law, and working with matrimonial and divorce, and sort of understanding the landscape of these different areas of law, dealing with real estate transactions, working with small businesses, all of these things help me to be somewhat well-rounded in different areas of the law, and really just help me to know enough to know like what goes on into these areas and what people are facing. And throughout that journey, I met a ton of people who just didn't know anything about estate planning, didn't know how to protect what they had, didn't know how to protect their businesses, didn't know how to be prepared when it came to divorce situations, didn't know what to do when it became time for, say, inheritances, or if things were going bad in someone's life and, death was imminent. They just didn't know how to prepare. And so oftentimes they would just avoid it
Hmm.
and have to deal with the messes after the fact. And so in learning this, and having a little bit of experience in estate planning, that was one of my first positions outside of law school. I said, I want to really ramp up my knowledge base and my service in this area because I feel like it's needed, right? And then also being a woman of color, I didn't see a lot of women in my position in this space. So I said, what, maybe it's something that's needed. So I educated myself. I, took courses, took CLEs, and I really started to dive deep and focus my practice on this area. And what I found is that it's been the most rewarding way that I have
Mm.
been able to serve clients, because one, I know that I'm saving their families money, right? I know that I'm saving their families time and heartache. And not only that, in doing this planning, it helps people to preserve family relationships.
Hmm.
That's one of the pieces that I think is missed, is that families are preserving relationships because when they don't have to fight and quarrel over the things that were left behind, then they can just move on, right? They can continue life and lean on each other when they've lost someone or when they're dealing with difficult times in life, versus fighting and advocating and doing all these other things that happen. So it has been wonderful and rewarding, and I have no doubt that this is where I needed to serve.
That's fabulous. I mean, what you're doing is important. I mean, the whole why and what we do as entrepreneurs, as business people, as people who actually work and support our families is
Mm,
our legacy, right? You're building a
yes.
legacy, so you want to be able to protect that legacy, right? What's the use in working so hard and building up this nice nest egg if at some point you may have to? Because I can relate personally, having some
Mm,
families and members of my family that passed away,
mhm.
having to deal with that stuff after the fact, as opposed to having everything buttoned up and taken care of in the up front. It's important. So what you do is
Yes.
important. And
Thank
I just
you.
have to commend you. Being a woman entrepreneur, woman attorney, and working in this field is a lot on your plate, but we need more entrepreneurs like yourself that because you relate to things, you have the empathy that other professionals, other attorneys may not have, right?
Thank you. Mm.
Just being that natural aura of a woman having to connect with families, that's something that comes natural for most women. Well, I'm assuming, I
I
don't
get
know.
what you mean. I get what you mean.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Awesome. So,
Yeah.
I had a couple questions for you, and you pretty much answered all of them in that one shot. So you did
We could
fabulous.
dive deeper if you'd like.
Yeah, well, I think you did such great job articulating your
Thank
what
you.
rewards you, what why you do what you do, and what's so rewarding for you. Maybe let's just jump into trust in estates and understanding what it's all about. So maybe if you can provide a simple explanation of trust
Yeah.
and estates planning and why it's so important.
Yes, for sure. So, estate planning, well, we'll say what your estate is, right? So, an estate is essentially everything that you own that's of value. It's your what we call assets, so things that are of value that tend to appreciate or make money for you, minus your liabilities, things that kind of may cost you money or take away from your assets. So that's what your estate is made out of. And when you're gone, it's still here, right? So it still needs
Right.
to be tended to, good or bad. So estate planning is essentially just putting a plan in place as to what's going to happen with all of your belongings, all of your assets, etc., in the event that you were to pass away. And so sometimes people think that it's just planning for death, so they shy away from that part of it. But it's really planning for life because as part of estate planning, you have things that you can attend to, such as your business succession, thinking about that and what's going to happen,
Mhm.
thinking about life insurance and different ways that you can live out the rest of your life, healthily and, in the most beneficial way that you would like. So you're taking an opportunity to assess, what do I have, right? What is the plan if I am no longer here? What happens to my family? What happens to my business, etc.? And then also, what do I want to see for the rest of my days? Like how do I want to plan, my the rest of my journey in life, right?
Mm.
And so it starts with estate planning. It starts with putting, when we think of estate planning, we think of the documents, right? A lot of times you hear about wills, you hear about trusts, healthcare proxies, power of attorneys, and we could get into that if you'd like. But it's also the logistics, right? So when you sit down and put a plan together, you have a clear vision of where you are, what assets you have, and then you can start to think about, the steps on how to get to where you want to go.
Mm. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Um, Maybe you can share some common misconceptions about trust and estate planning that
Yeah.
you've
So
probably encountered.
Yeah, so one was, people thinking that you're planning for death, and I've had
Hmm.
families where they're in their 60s and they're approaching retirement, and they're the younger family members, their children, etc. Like, you need to get this done because we don't want to be left
Yeah,
picking up the
but they
pieces.
don't want to talk about that, right?
They
That
don't
just
wanna talk about it,
right.
or they've had an experience where someone has passed away and
Mm.
they've seen what happens, how the families get sort of torn up, or just the difficulty it is for the individuals trying to figure out and piece together the picture of
Hmm.
what exists and what to do with it. And so those are, I hear that the most from people. So we have the people who are, like, scared into it, the people who are just responsible that way, and they're just like, no, I know I need to get this done. And then we have people who are encouraged or are seeking out the information to do it. And so that's what I've sort of encountered with people doing estate planning, or finally coming to do estate planning. And so some of the fears is that it's going to take too long. It's too complicated. I'm not going to understand. I'm not going to get it. And
Hmm.
so that's people from all different walks of life, right? That feel that it's too overwhelming. And then
Hmm.
in the end, I often hear that clients are relieved, like they're relieved that they did it. They're relieved that they took the time. And we really break it down, to make it a little bit painless in different phases or different steps. So first is going to be the information gathering. So just finding out, what is it that you have, like, just listing that out. A lot of times people don't take the time to really assess
Hmm.
and find out, what is my net worth. If you haven't come to that place in life where you've needed to do that, that's a good start, right? And then we just have a conversation about, what are your goals? Like, what are you looking to achieve? Like, let's talk about your family dynamics and things like that. If you have a business, I tend to work with a lot of business owners as well. what's the plan for this business in the event that, you're no longer here?
Mhm.
You have clients, you have your employees and things of that nature. You don't want to just like have all the pieces fall and not have a plan for that to be in place. So we do that discovery process, and then we come up with a plan on and options on what to do. A lot of times it's going to include things like wills and trusts and those documents, but it also can help connect them with individuals that they need to fill in the other pieces.
Mhm. Do you have a preference between talking with or or consulting with um, business owners as compared to the folks that are working a 9 to 5?
I wouldn't say necessarily a preference, but I think it's exciting dealing with business owners
Mhm.
because there's a little bit more creativity,
Right,
right,
right, right.
involved in figuring out how to help them get to their journey. So
Mhm.
it's nice to have business owners really think about the succession of their business, really think about who are they going to bring up in the business, who are they going to put in position, really think about, having the proper documents in place, well, getting their succession in place or getting
Mhm.
their estate plan in place, like making sure that their life is protected, and then making sure that they're also having these conversations with their business partners
Mhm.
and making
Yeah.
sure their business partners are doing the same.
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of the clients I work with,
Mhm.
they don't take any of this into consideration. A lot of
Mhm.
companies just don't prepare. Like you never know. Like there's disability, there's divorce, right? Because
Yes.
a lot of times the partner doesn't want to work with the spouse, right?
Yes, for sure.
So having all that succession plan in place is important. So you're right. On the business side, it's a lot more creativity as opposed to 9 to 5. It's a little bit more clear cut. In some cases, may not be so if you're dealing with medical practice groups or
Yeah, it
law firms
definitely
too as well.
depends.
There's a lot of intertwining of business relations going on, especially I can't tell how many times you see business owners that don't even have operating agreements in place, right? Um,
Right.
Crazy.
I was just having that conversation with someone was asking me about dealing with businesses and doing like buy sell agreements and things like that. And I was
Yeah.
explaining how I know of a business that had multiple partners, and one of the partners ended up passing away, and they did some of the work, right? They had buy sell agreements and things like
Mhm.
that. They had an operating agreement, but they were not running the business according to the operating agreements
Right, right,
and
right,
or considering the buy sell, and they never funded it. So they never had insurance to really
right.
put in place to make sure. So that ended up being a situation where it wasn't helpful because they didn't complete it. So that's another thing. When you start your plan, you want to make sure you cross all the T's and dotted all the I's so that it actually works for you.
Exactly, exactly.
Mhm.
I want to switch a little bit. I want to talk more about one of your niches, which is working in the sandwich generation. So I
Yes.
want you to talk a little bit more about that, and then maybe we could talk a little specifically how you help those that are in that sandwich generation navigate the complexities of exit planning.
Yes, for sure. So the sandwich generation are individuals who they're sandwiched in between their children, who they're planning for or caring for, and their parents, who they may have a hand in planning for as well or caring for. And they tend to be the influencers of that circle, right? So they're the ones who are helping make decisions, who are finding resources, who are going to be the ones who are responsible to care for everyone when things happen. And so I find that most of my clients fall into that category.
Hmm.
Um, and so what we do is we start with their planning first, because you have to, right? They say you have to put on your mask first so that you can
Right,
help others. So make sure their planning is in place, like who's going to care for their children if something were to happen, who's going to step in and care for their business, and who's going to care for their parents if they're the ones that are, being relied on to provide for everyone. And then so once we have that thought through and that their planning put in place, then we start to look at one, making sure the business has what it needs in terms of making sure that if they're a business owner, that they can have that succession, everything is sort of tied up, and then dealing with their parents and their loved ones so that if something happens, they can actually step in and help, like, make sure there's healthcare proxies and power of attorneys. And if there needs to be further planning, then that's also done as well.
Mhm. Is there anything else that's unique to that generation when it comes to estate planning?
It's more so the many moving parts, right? So a lot, it's typically harder for them to make decisions, and it's
Hmm.
also a little bit more burdensome for them to do because of the
Hmm.
fact that they have so much going on and so many moving parts. Dealing with family members that might need, Medicaid and things of that nature is just tends to be a lot.
Hmm.
In terms with the planning, it might be a little bit more hand holding, a lot more education for those clients on what to do.
Hmm. Awesome. You have any past clients or case studies you could probably share? Obviously, we want to protect the innocent, but um, past case studies that could probably share that relates to this particular sandwich generation.
Yeah, for sure. So I had a client who one their mother was receiving care and was
Hmm.
actually experiencing like some dementia, and they
Hmm.
wanted to make sure that the what they had in place was good enough, and if it wasn't good enough, that they were able to actually make some moves on what needed to happen. And so the good thing is that they had a healthcare proxy and power of attorney in place for their parent, because what people don't realize is the reason why you need to do this stuff ahead of time is because when you are in a position where you don't have capacity, or you cannot understand the consequences of what you're doing, then it's not that it's too late, but there's going to be a whole nother process that you have to go through that's a lot more burdensome. So they did have that. So they were able to do the planning for their parent to make sure that if something happens to their parent, they could resolve. And then in having those conversations, we realized that the person had multiple businesses that they were running, did not have an estate plan in place for themselves. Complicated situation where they had a past marriage and a current marriage, so different children from these different situations.
Hmm.
And we had to plan around what that looks like if something happens. How does the current family get served and the past family get served, and to make sure that their agreements and their succession is in place for their business. So that's like I want to say exciting, type of thing, because there's so many different areas to cover and
Hmm.
to deal with to make sure that this client is prepared for anything that sort of should happen. And so we were able to work with them and accomplish that.
That's a lot of moving parts.
Yes.
How do you keep on top of the process, and how do you keep things moving forward in a situation like that one?
Yeah, so we just break it down step by step, it's just tackling each thing one by one. So the most urgent situation was dealing with the parent, because if the parent passes away, then it makes it more difficult to deal with those assets. So dealing with the parent situation, making sure their planning is in place, again, evaluating having a conversation about evaluating what assets the person has and what they want to do with it. Sometimes especially with business owners, they may have partners in certain businesses. So they have not only their life, but they have their partner situation. So it might require having their partners come in to just having those discussions about what happens with the business and what they'd
Hmm.
like to do, who they'd like to raise up to step in. And then once we have those conversations, then we kind of know like what we need to put in place, and we start drafting the documents. But we put a plan in place, or an action plan in place, to say, okay, here's where we're going to start, and to go step by step until we accomplish it all.
Got it, guys. Because you gotta have a plan, right? You can't just.
Pretty much.
Awesome.
Yeah, and it helps, back to Goldman Sachs, which also encouraged us to make sure that our business is systematized so that we
Hmm.
know how to handle what step is going to happen next. So we have a lot of systems and processes in place, a lot of software that help us keep track of the clients and what stage they are and what needs to be done as well.
Talking about software, let's switch it a little bit and just discuss about future trends and advice
Okay.
for trust in the States. Like, maybe you said you've been doing it for 10 plus years. So I'm sure you've
Mhm.
seen a lot over the years. How has the landscape of trust in the States planning evolved over the years, and what trends do you see emerging?
Yeah. So when I came into trust and estates planning, um, there's a lot of resources out there that help you get plans done faster, just
Mhm.
because it could be tedious. You're
Mhm.
doing plans that are like 20 plus or 100 plus pages, and you want to make sure that you're providing the client with the best product, the best
Mhm.
service, and you're covering all bases. So it had already been a situation where there's software resources to help you draft and things of that nature and
Mhm.
gather information from clients. And now it's just been a lot more well-rounded to help support attorneys in this area
Mhm.
to provide for clients and things of that nature. I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, definitely when it comes to document gathering and also
Mhm.
scanning, are you at that level where you're using software to scan these documents and convert them?
Yeah, so we use Clio, which is a practice management software, and
Mhm.
that has a private portal that allows us to create sort of like each client's own portal so they can share
Mhm.
documents with us securely. They can
Yeah.
sign things securely, receive information, they can get their drafts securely, and then we also use software on the other end where once we're done gathering information and we've created the plan for the client and what type of trust
Mhm.
trust or will or whatever the picture is, then we can draft those documents a lot easier,
Mhm.
and specifically for that particular client.
Are your clients open to that these days, or they still want to come in and see you, or what do you see over the
It's a
years?
little it's mixed. I would say the majority of my clients, we do, meet on Zoom, and
Mhm.
the majority love it.
Mhm.
And they love that they don't have to come in until
Right.
signing, really, and even if they really don't wanna come in for signing, we could do it virtually, but we try to encourage them to come in for signing. And then we have some clients that are like, "No, we wanna come in and sit and meet with you," and that's okay too. But, for the most part, everyone's embracing technology because it's helped us to do things quicker. And
Mhm.
then also we kind of like to be thorough with the review of the plan. So that usually takes a while, and it's nice clients could be in their own home, reviewing
Yeah.
it. And they might have children and a lot of things going on in their life, so it's easier and more convenient for the most part.
Yeah, with technology now, I mean, the world's gotten so small, to smaller now, right?
Mhm.
We're all connected. It's just that's amazing. I mean, normally something like this, you would have like a podcast set up in your office, right? Come in and have the session. Now it can just be done,
Yeah, now it could just be done. Yep.
Yeah, right now you could be in, I don't know, you can be in Dubai right now, right?
Yes. Thank you. I would love to be in Dubai right now.
Oh, like, oh, I
Yeah.
thought I lost power for a second.
No, you're good.
So,
Mhm.
let's talk about a little bit about. You can hear me because I thought I
I
lost
can
power
hear
for a
you. I
second.
can hear you
Okay,
well.
great.
Mhm.
So, in light of the current economic conditions right now, like what advice would you give to people considering estate planning?
I would say get started. So
Mhm.
it doesn't hurt to have the conversation and to have a clear picture to know what needs to be done in order for you to get
Mhm.
your plan in place for yourself. So I would say, contact a professional. If you're in New York, New Jersey, or you're in my jurisdiction, feel free to contact me, or I
Mhm.
could tap you into my network anywhere
Uh-huh.
in the country. So but seriously, don't delay, because I can't tell you how many times I've had consults with people and, have given them an action plan, and they've not proceeded. And then I get a call that so and so passed away, or this one passed away,
Mhm.
and it's unfortunate because then it's such a harder journey to
Yeah.
deal with once they're gone. So, and that we don't have the timeline. We don't know, what is when. But also it's not as bad or as burdensome as it may seem. And don't feel intimidated about getting it done. And wherever you are, whatever your asset level is, you should be proud of putting a plan together to protect it. And then also I would also say we want to open up and we want to change sort of the narrative that it's taboo to talk about money. You really want to talk about these things with your family, have open conversations, especially when you're thinking about like business succession. You want to make sure that those who you're considering want to be, want to succeed in this business, and or want to take over whatever assets it is. You want to have these open conversations so you can have a clear view, clear picture of where you're going, and it can also help preserve the family relationships as well.
Yeah, this, what you're touching my heart here, what you're sharing, because we're in different fields, but we still serve the similar clientele. And I can tell you how many times I get contacted by clients that are dealing with a lot of health related issues. And sometimes, we do build very close relationships with our clients, but sometimes you don't want to pry too much, but sometimes just come right out and ask like, hey, what's, something you want to share with me?
Yeah.
You was mentioning about putting a plan together. We have a client come out to you and want to put a plan together. By the way, you're very popular, by the way. I just have to say this. So I'm getting pop-ups all over the place. I'm trying to stay focused here, but I'm getting text messages, emails. I'm getting people, hey, Sabine, connect me with Sabine. I want to do business with her. I want to do this. I've got at least 3 already. And they're still coming. So so you're doing a great job. So I had one client in particular that came out to me, and he, so same thing that's like you have a discovery to see what their needs are, and then, okay, this is what you need to do. This is as far as the steps, next steps, and so on,
right?
About gathering documentation. And, like most clients, this is not in any one particular industry, they just drag their feet, right?
Right.
I didn't hear back from him for a year later. Called me up. His name is Jim, and say, Kyle, remember we spoke a year ago? I said, yeah, of course I remember. So I'm ready to get started now. What do I need to get started? I say, well, so the same process, let me know. We got a quick call update on what changed in the past year. And I say, well, this is what we need to get started. Then he called me up about 6 months later. He didn't start. 6 months later, he said, Kyle, can I come into your office today?
Wow.
Like right away. I already knew like something was up. I said, well, let's schedule tomorrow, whatever. So he came in. It was a trucking company. So in that first meeting, all he shared to me was that he was losing his lease. Right? He was in the Brooklyn area. They're redeveloping that area, putting up real nice high-rise condos. 35 years in business.
Wow.
And he talked about assets. He never thought about buying a building.
Oh, wow.
So they were breaking ground. The landlord owned the entire block. They were breaking ground right next to him, and they're waiting for him to exit. Now, luckily, that's one of my niches, logistics. I have a lot of buyers in that space.
Okay.
But we want to go out to the market and create leverage and get as many buyers as we can. So I say, hey, I can't guarantee that I can get it done in this short period of time, but I still want to make sure I do my best to get you, the best offer and so on. So let's still run the process. It turned out I end up the same buyer I had in mind, end up being a buyer for him. So it wasn't until like a week before closing, he called me up and he said that, Kyle, I just have to let you know what's going on. So unfortunately, he had cancer, right? He wasn't doing too well, and he's getting chemo treatment and so on. And he just wanted to make me aware of that in the event,
something happened.
Yeah. So it touched me, and we had a nice heart-to-heart conversation about it. And I asked him if I could share what's going on with the buyer, right? Disclose that. And the buyer was a good friend of mine. We've done deals together, great guy. And he's like, yeah, let's work it out. So we end up getting some of his key employees and some stay agreements to make sure they can help transition everything in the event. But to your point, if these clients, do this, put this in place in advance, they can maximize their exits and create more value for themselves, or not put themselves in the position, because it's stressful. It's very stressful when you're selling a business. And when you have your health to think about, like the business takes a back burner.
For sure.
So there's multiple dynamics here. One dynamic is your family, wife, husband, kids, grandkids. They're concerned for their elder, right? They're concerned for their family member, but to make sure they're okay. At the same time, you have employees, vendors, contracts. You have a whole lot of potential
Whole lot.
lawsuits,
Yeah.
things evolve on the other end. And it's a lot for a family to manage. So making sure you have this retirement plan, succession plan in place, whether you're planning on exiting now or 100 years from now, is
Right.
very important. So this discussion here is very timely, and it touches me because I can relay multiple stories of clients. I had clients pass away this past year
Oh,
uh,
wow.
that I've
Yeah.
been working with. So things happen, and it's very unexpected. And this is your world, and it's very unexpected.
Unexpected. Yeah,
Yeah, you
100%.
you
You
never
know,
know.
and you said something that I thought of too. Not only maximizing the, I guess, the potential earnings from the sale of the business, but also the tax, tax planning around that.
Yeah,
Navigating those waters. If you have time to plan, then it allows you to get the best bang for your buck, essentially, when you give yourself time. So
yeah,
not
definitely.
under pressure.
So, as an expert in your field, you mind sharing as we winding down to the tail end here, maybe 3 tips on for someone that's starting their journey and securing their legacy and their plan? Maybe some 3 tips that you can share for folks.
Yeah. So one tip is to be open, be open to learning and understanding new strategies. One that I said kind of already is that you want to have a consultation, seek out a professional to discuss, what your options are. Speak with, your family members, include your tax professionals, your advisors in the conversation. Everyone's here to sort of help you optimize your goal in life. So don't be shy, don't be afraid to take the first step and do it. And understand that it's really a good thing. So I hope that those were three tips.
Yeah, and you definitely. I mean, I'm gonna throw one in there. It's like you want to make sure you have to get in the right advice and the right professionals
Right.
on your team, like yourself.
Hmm.
People, it just drives me insane. People say you can go online and get agreements done, get contracts done, and all these cookie cutter stuff. But there's no replacement for knowledge and experience and wisdom.
Hmm.
You can't
For
find anywhere else. And I always, if I was in if this roles were reversed and you asked me 3 tips, I always share with my clients that just get out of the bubble, you know, join a mastermind, join a trade association,
sure.
put yourself in a position or with other business owners that are like-minded, that's like you. That's
Right.
going to, because you like even one of us think like we have ups and down days, right, Sabine? So on
Yeah,
our down days is like sometimes you need to put yourself in a position to be with other folks that are going through
that
the
are
same
gonna
thing.
push you. Yeah.
Yeah, they're
Mhm.
going to push you. So it's challenging being an entrepreneur. It's tough being in business. So join a
Eh,
best practice group with your. Let's say you're in a trucking company, logistics or HVAC, or you're a nurse in home health care aid. Connect with other aides across the country and across the world.
Right,
See what
right.
they're doing. See what they're doing in their business, and maybe they have some. They have been through this process before. They have some experts that they can refer you to. So get
Right,
out.
and also know that, every situation is unique. There may be some overlap,
Yes.
but, don't think that if something, was negative for someone else, that it would be the same for you, and
Mhm.
always getting ahead of it is gonna be the best thing. So rip off the Band-Aid, essentially.
Rip off the band-aid. I tell you, people procrastinate. We're all human nature.
Right,
Um, you typically get stuff done at the deadline. They wait till the last minute.
Mhm,
And I have personal experiences from this. I lost my brother. We didn't have any plans, and
mhm.
actually, believe it or not, we the insurance, the life insurance, was submitted, approved, not signed.
Oh, boy.
Right. Yeah, we actually was getting it for him, and he passed. It's a totally different discussion, but
Mhm.
it's all relative that we all are guilty of this waiting last minute. So don't wait last minute. What's up my computer? Don't wait last minute.
Mhm.
Be proactive and seek out the right advisors like Sabine and
Yeah,
others that are,
I've
that
I've
are
definitely had to do things bedside, while people are in hospitals and things like that, and that's not the way to plan. You don't really wanna do it that way.
yeah.
So definitely be proactive.
Yeah, yeah. I'm a notary as well, and I've in my previous entrepreneurship endeavor, I've traveled to a couple nursing homes and signed documents and so on,
Mm. Okay.
notarized
Mhm.
documents rather, and And you see a lot when you go into those spaces, and you hear like stories like sitting bedside, as you're saying, just hearing
Yeah.
about their life and their family, my kids, my grandkids. Like there's always that one question: if there's one thing you can always do, one thing you have not done in your lifetime, like, and that you wanted to do, what would it be? And there's never work, there's
No.
always, family
Family.
or
Yeah.
travel or whatever.
Yeah, that's
So
why I really try to balance that with as busy as I am, I try to make life experiences, with loved ones and just, enjoying life a priority because that's the thing that people never regret, you know?
yeah,
And so I get what you're saying. You definitely want to prioritize that and you want to make sure things are in order so that you don't have to worry about those things.
definitely. This was fantastic. I'd love to
Thank
have you
you.
back. I want to hear more about your journey. I know you're working on some cool things. I don't know if you want to share anything you're working on now, but
Well,
oh wait, I forgot. We didn't talk about the book.
oh,
I don't
yeah,
know if
yeah. I was gonna
yeah,
share that when you say you're working on cool things. So I
yeah.
wrote a book called You're Richer Than You Think. I have a copy right here. Uh, um, you could see it. The richer is in gold, so it's hard to see sometimes. So
Okay,
it's You're Richer Than
cool.
You Think. And it's all about this, area, what all goes into estate planning, why you should want to leave a legacy. We're all here to impact, we're all here to make a difference. And so your legacy, is what you make of it essentially. So thinking about that ahead of time is something that we could do. And it also talks about all the different pieces, wills and trusts and powers of attorneys and real estate and businesses and things like that. So help you get an understanding if you're just stepping foot into this area, helps you understand the world that we're in. And so you can get it on Amazon. You're richer
Yeah,
than you think.
awesome.
Um, I also, let's see, as besides the firm, I also am part of an organization called WIFS, Women in Insurance Financial Services. So we're looking to help young women or just women in general have a resource for mentorship and to just really understand this area. It's been historically male dominated. We want to just have a place for women to get mentorship and to be mentors in the insurance and financial services sector. So if you're interested in that, there is a LinkedIn page for WIFs and it's the Long Island chapter. Um, and I also have a course with another attorney called Law and Practice. It's regarding real estate law. So I used to do a ton of real estate transactions, and my partner, she is a real estate attorney. So we've created a course to teach other attorneys who would like to either add that to their repertoire or go into that area or train their support staff on the practice of residential real estate law. So there's that as well.
Well, you're one busy esquire.
Yes.
So I want to hear more about the WIFs. So one of my advisors on my team, she's also licensed as well. She's actually one that emailed me.
Uh-huh.
So she's listening now. Hey, Bonnie. So I'll
Oh,
connect you with
hi,
her. So she's
Bonnie.
actually has an interest in
Okay,
women in financial services.
cool.
And we do have for some reason, not all the viewers are loading up here, but
Mm,
what's up, Jeff? I see Jeff, shout out. And
mhm.
Sandro, is it Sandro has a
Okay.
question about international planning. Do you refer those out, or do you do that internally, or?
So if it relates to if the assets are just international, but the client is domestic, then
Mhm,
we will do it, and then we'll collaborate with an attorney where their assets are to
mhm.
essentially fund their plan or deal with those assets. But if they're an international client, then that's something that we would refer out.
Okay. So I'm assuming,
Mhm.
Sandra, you're probably international, so maybe
Yeah,
we're connecting.
yeah.
So Sabine, are we going to include all the information in the show notes,
Mhm.
a link to your book and
Thank you.
the Women in Service and also the Law and Practice program you're putting together. So that's awesome. Um, I also want to share, everyone, we're
Mm.
pretty busy here at the MIBB group and the M&A network. And one of my passions is to do things like this, right? To educate, give back.
Mhm.
When I first moved to this country, long time ago, I didn't have the resources, the tools. I didn't have smart people like Sabine to connect with. I didn't have entrepreneurship circles. So it's just been my lifelong journey to provide this education, provide a platform where CEOs, business owners, founders that are growing their business, but don't have the resources to turn to, and they don't want to leave money on the table. They want to protect their legacy. They want to have a great lifestyle. So you want to work, but at the same time, you want to provide. You want to have fun in the process. And then you want to give back as far as philanthropy, give it back, charities, and so on. So I've created a platform called M&A Network. It's our 5th year, and with M&A, we have about 43 advisors on the team, and we do a lot of events like this. We had one yesterday in Parsippany, New Jersey, talking about. We had someone I want to connect you with, Sabine, actually, because they don't do any estate planning work. So Mark Steidelman Mark was on the all session last week, talking about legal best practices and M&A and so on, how to prepare your business. So that was fantastic. So I'm going to make a quick plug for anyone that's listening. We do what we call CEO masterminds. So we have groups of business owners that are growing their companies, that are preparing to buy other companies, that are preparing to exit and merge and so on. We meet the first Thursday of every month. So I was going to invite anyone that's interested in joining or coming as a guest to one of our masterminds. Send me a message. June 1st, doing double duty in June. June 1st, you're going to be at the Heritage Club. I'm going to have one of my past clients that I sold his business, and we have another business owner. We have a panel talking about how to prepare for your exit and the steps that's needed. That's 8 o'clock, June 1st. And then 12 o'clock, same day, we're doing a round table at your building on risk transfer and M&A. So we're talking about insurance and that sort of stuff, risk management. So hold on. I don't know if my screen is going out or what. Hold on.
I still hear you and see you and hear you.
Yeah, I think my screen saver goes out. Oh crap! Did my power go out? But yeah, so we in the show notes you put information. Get a hold of Sabine. Any final thoughts? Any final takeaways, Sabine, before we wrap things up?
I would just say, we always get preoccupied with what we're doing on our day to day, but just don't forget to also enjoy life. Like every moment is precious. I had a health scare a couple of years ago, and so I made it my business to make sure that I am making the most of every day, every moment. So again, just make sure you get your affairs in order, contact your professionals, but most importantly, enjoy the people in your life and life itself.
Awesome. You only live once.
You only live once.
You have to live each day like it's your last.
Yes, for sure.
Awesome. Well, it's a pleasure having you, Sabine. And thank you for everyone that's listening. And for those who are watching the recording, our next session is going to be with Jim Vigner. He is the Vice President of Live Oak and Northeast. He's going to talk about SBA and how to navigate the process, how to get funding for your deals. So tune in for that. And then after that, we're going to have Todd Ringler talking about business valuations and what your business is worth. So if you have interest in being a guest, reach out to me and we add you to the calendar. But Sabine, it's a pleasure connecting, and thank you again for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.